So we'll start with that today. I think with the window is over. Nobody is happier than me because I hate these transfer windows. So with the window being over, we'll kind of like start with that. We'll go team by team, and then I do want to kind of like look at the general picture and where you guys are too. Well, we are going to start with. We'll go like alphabetical order over here, and we will go with. Well, I guess it's going to be like very short and sweet over here with Arsenal. Alan, are you disappointed that there was no action at all? Arteta clearly is, apparently, in his press match, in the pre-match press conference, he was talking about it. But as an Arsenal fan, is there like any frustration, or does the weekend score give like a false sense of we're good, no need it?
I'm not too concerned. I thought in general it was always going to be tough to get the players that we want that actually can make, um, make an impact. As far as signings and stuff like that, I just didn't see it was going. I didn't think it was going to happen. I wasn't too worried. I knew Arteta wanted the players that he wanted to bring on, and whether that's Sesko or Watkins. Personally, I don't think 60 million for a 29-year-old striker is good deal. I mean, I know Shea probably thought it was, but I'm not too upset about it. I know a lot of my fellow friends and fellow fans and you know the lot over there at AFTV or whatever they do call themselves, whatever they're also pretty pissed off, but I don't care. To me, and I've had this opinion ever since, even more so now since I read this book, Arson's book, that January transfers destabilize a team more so than help teams. So I've thought that before, but I've never had it actually visualized or heard it and someone else say it, and having one of the greatest managers say it. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like an interesting audio. I do agree with the throwing the balance off sometimes. I don't think you have to do a lot, but when you do need it, you got to kind of address some needs as well. I mean, Liverpool has had some winters where we haven't done anything and did it too late. But at the same time, we've also done some stuff where brought in guys who never ended up playing. So that's just like a waste of money at the same time. But BX Gunner says we shit the bed this window and needed some reinforcement. So I think, yeah, Alan, I think, yeah, like you said, you're kind of in the minority from what I hear from most of the Arsenal fans, especially the striker position that looked like a clear need. This is kind of like when Liverpool clearly needed a center back and we didn't do anything a couple of winters ago. But talking about destabilizing the team, if going to happen, I got bad news for you there, Shay. A lot of movements. I think you can't. First of all, I mean, I guess just I'll ask you, what do you make of this as a Villa
I,
fan? Are you
this
happy?
is
Too much?
something, yeah, it was something that you would see truly only in a video game. Getting Marcus Rashford, Marco Asensio, and Donnell Malin all in a January transfer window. This is what I do on FIFA. Like, oh, I got $50 million. Let me just do something really dumb here and do this. And being a Villa fan, somebody posted something from 2020, and our January transfer window was Borjan Bastion, some random striker from Swansea, I think, like the most random players that we have ever amassed. And then in here, we have brought in, three big time names. Like, yes, Rashford, for all his faults, I know we were talking about in the last podcast, he's still young and still has plenty of opportunity. And, I mean, it is with issues going on at United, this is an opportunity for him to buckle down again and at least try to get something. And if we happen to be that spot for 6 months where he gets back on form and goes where he wants to go, that's fine with me, because we did this literally to bring him in as we needed a better wide player, and we got one. Like, I think Emery is the manager to get this out of him. And the same with Asensio. I think he's wanted him, and Asensio wants to play time. Like, we're the perfect club for this. Like, hey, you can still be your big superstar that you want to be, but you're going to get the game time because we don't have the players, that are going to beat him out that he's had at other clubs. And I was obviously worried because, you sell Philogene. I thought that was just kind of a crazy move to bring him in, but I think it was a PSR move when we sold Diaby, we brought him back, and then we literally sold him for more money. So we've actually come out. I think we only spent truly 25 million pounds or euros or pounds, however much it was, and then selling Duran for about 77 million euros on top of the add-ons that we're going to get from him, and then we sold Diego to
Fenerbahce.
Yeah, Fenerbahce for it's like 10. So we've made almost 95 million. So that helped us out tremendously. And like how, Alan said, it does destabilize sometimes, but we needed that because now I don't think we have to worry about selling players in the summer again now. Like this was strictly a big time financial move. We made a bunch of money getting to the round of 16 of the Champions League. So this is just hey, like we finally have that allure to some of these players that are on the fringes at these bigger clubs that want to play. We can give them an out and play Champions League. Hopefully it doesn't bite us in the ass, obviously, because
that's what I was going to ask you. Is there any concern? You're looking at this over here, right? This kind of goes like the ins and outs for every club over here.
Yep.
And I mean, the loan outs are kind of like weird, right? Like Liverpool has 4 loans out, but it's like kids that you normally would not see. So not as big of a concern in that. But bringing 5 people in, especially 3 loans, and I guess like depends. I mean, as we go around, I want to get your guys' take on loans as well. But I mean, do you like that? I mean, the Rashford thing as a buyout, but Asensio does not have a buyout option, right?
It kind of fills 2 voids because Emi Buendia still hasn't been able to do what he has after a big time knee injury, and I feel like hey, this kind of showed me that they're making the push for the Champions League. Like they're going to try to make it as far as we can in that tournament. And you bring in 2 Champions League, almost 3, because I think Melan's played for Dortmund and before. You have 3 guys that have played in the league before they have the experience, and they're all, and if you look at the squad, upgrades to the players that we've loaned out. The Disasi one, like we needed it. I know Chelsea fans kind of whatever, but we had 1 healthy center back. Once Ty got hurt last game, it was literally a contest. So like that one was like a need. We had to have somebody because I don't think we have any like young kids that are even prepared or even trust them to even attempt to put them out there. And that one was frustrating just because Chelsea kept BS. And I was like, we've literally paid the money. We will give you what you want. And, we're willing to take him on loan. And like y'all were using him as scapegoat. But of course, Chelsea's like, oh, these are our Champions League rivals. And I just laugh at that now because here's Villa worrying these other teams about sending players. And he just outright said, I do not want to go to Spurs. So regardless how his last 6 months goes, like I think he's already made a fan out of all the Villa fans because he basically told Chelsea to F off. I'm not going to Spurs. I want to go to play for Villa and play in the Champions League. So we'll see what happens. And then, we finally signed a right back. Like I've been telling my friends this and other Villa fans, and I've said it. We've had Matty Cash as a right back for like the last 3 years. He needs competition, and bringing somebody in again at the January window is probably something we needed just because we never addressed that issue in the summertime. So it's all up to Emery. It's all it comes down to.
Right. It's all up to him. I mean, I guess, like I say, my only concern would be this was a team in the right direction overall, but it did need depth, right? We talked about that before. It always struggled coming from Europe and stuff like that, or before a European game and stuff like that. But it just feels like, man, is it too much? And I was actually, we talked about this in the morning shows as well. I was personally shocked that they picked up so much of the wages for Rashford.
Yep.
Because nobody else wanted it. So it's not like, why would you even say, you could have said, I'll pay half of it, and you could probably easily get away with that. Yep. I don't think there was a lot of competition in terms of people willing to pay. And those are things we've been talking about, the salary structure for Liverpool and stuff like that on our shows. I mean, we were looking at Villa. I couldn't believe what Tielemans and stuff was on, by the way. We were looking at it on the Monday morning show. And I just don't know especially if Rashford is, I mean, he hasn't played in 2 months.
Yep.
Pretty much, right? And, if hasn't been practicing like Amarim is saying and stuff like that, I don't know how the people on the current squad will look and say, this guy's getting twice as much as I am every week just to hang out, kind of a thing. And those are the things, going back to what Alan was saying, sometimes that's why I think Emery has a tough job to be able to kind of
No, and I agree too, because I'm sure Asensio is probably on massive wages too, coming from PSG. I don't know what his full wages are. And that was a concern. I was like, 3 guys coming on loan that we're paying full wages for. I mean, I guess that's what they're trying to do now is a stopgap because they may have found the way to get around PSR right now without having to sell the players that we don't want to sell. And like I said, I think Disasi and Sensio, we told them straight up loans, we'll pay it, and that's fine. I think they'll take that cost because that's probably not going to afford, or not going to cost us the PSR money. I think they'll be like, hey, for 6 months we took them on loan, and however far we make it in the Champions League, we'll cover those costs. Now, I think Rashford, they said we may have a buyout clause, but like obviously it's going to be up to him.
I think it's 40, right? The buyout
something
clause?
like that. But then like obviously if we sign him full time permanently, like he cannot be on 300 and something thousand a week. Like our top Emery Martinez and Ollie don't make that much money. Like he's making more than like 4 people combined. So
yeah, I mean, when you looked at that, it wasn't even close. Like his wages wasn't even close to the rest of the squad. Thursday says, I don't see why Emery would want Rashford. Seems like he's gone from one diva and Durant to another and Rashford. But BX Owner says this is a massive gamble. Somebody's had a truck driving around and around their place, but I don't know who this is. This is a massive gamble from Villa with a huge payday. And that's the thing, I think, especially with Rashford, because 40 million for Rashford is not a bad deal. And if Rashford's, it kind of comes with a mission, it's not a bad deal at all. But yeah, like I say, it can go really well or really poorly. That hands on like Emery right here. Well, yours is a lot easier over here. Let's go with the Brentford's history is very low. Michael Coyote in, and they're both loans actually. As a Brentford fan, are you almost like happy because like nobody was lost at least, and it's a pretty good squad right now?
Yeah, definitely. And we're not a club that does business in January. Like it just doesn't fit with our business model. It doesn't make sense to do any business in January. And the fact we've got one right back in. We had one right back in, one right back out, as you said. They're both on loan, but I think both the deals seem to be loan to buy. This kind of increasingly common agreement you get where it seems like they're going to be made permanent in the summer. But yeah, great window for us. I mean, it's a like for like swap, and a Coyote, at least from the 10 minutes we saw when he came off the bench against Spurs, he's going to be really good, very fast, very athletic, has a great long throw, a huge long throw that I didn't know about until we saw him launch a few into the Spurs box at the end of the game. So he looks good, and credit to Mazuraslev. He went from the B team to the championship. He got an assist when we went through the playoff final. He got an assist to get us into the Premier League, and he's been a consistent, if slightly limited player. I think he's a player with quite a low ceiling in the Premier League. So the fact we're probably going to get about 5 million for him in the summer is, that just says the price of a Premier League player these days, doesn't it? Yeah. That just says what playing for a mid-table Premier League club is worth to clubs in Europe. He's going to Wolfsburg, he's off to Germany. 5 million. I mean, blows my mind really, because he was vilified by the fans for just not being good enough, and it was clear he was technically the weakest player in our starting 11. So great bit of business the way I've seen it. We've got an improvement in a key position. We haven't lost anyone. Forest was throwing around some kind of slightly pathetic bids for Wissa. Obviously, there was talk about Mbumo, Arsenal, Liverpool, but you're also clubs that do most of your business in the summer as well. And the way I look at it, we've got a couple of players coming back from injury. Ethan Pinnock was back on the bench. That's going to be huge in terms of centre back. So hopefully he's fit again. And we've had Rico Henry and Thiago kind of appear and disappear. So I'm really hoping that maybe one of them can return to the starting 11 in the next couple of weeks, and that will be like a new signing. So great, concise.
Thiago is not going to be around a lot.
I know.
Our Liverpool personal experience.
It's exactly how it's gone as well. Literally how it's gone. So I feel really good. I think we've basically improved one position, hopefully quite significantly over time. He was good at Fiorentina, and I'm really excited. Yeah, Serzi says, it's a cursed name.
Player, if their name is Thiago, Keita, and stuff like that, you're just gonna kind of like steer away and look at somebody else. That should be part of like the scouting classes, I think. Yeah, overall. But yeah, I think I agree. I think for a team like Brentford, it's almost like no news is good news. Kind of an ordeal, being able to keep that core that obviously Thomas Frank is doing really well with. Our boys, nobody coming in, which I am okay with, especially when we saw right before towards the end of the window, you saw Gomez coming back and stuff like that. It was going to be like almost clear that we're not going to do anything, and I'm okay with that. I do agree with Alan. I mean, if anything, I thought Arsenal needed a striker. Whereas Liverpool's need was more about what happens if this guy goes out, this guy goes out. It was a lot of ifs. And you got to figure if your biggest competitor in the title race is not getting what they need, I think staying put was more than enough for Liverpool. So I have no complaints. People will always complain because everybody wants new shiny toys, but we can't all be Villa going around throwing money around over here. So there's always that. But let me ask.